let's start. Thank you, first of all, here to the Vultr team for hosting us at SQream here at your booth. We are going to talk a little bit about the AI factory, manufacturing intelligence, and leveraging that at scale. All right, so I'm Itai. I'm actually local here in the Bay Area, and I'll run this presentation in about 10 minutes and then open it up for some questions. So let's start with the notion of AI factory, right? So we know historically there were real factories and there still are, and as we're seeing the evolution of those and the new industrial revolution, there's now the AI revolution. And we see Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, you can see I try to mimic the jacket, right? And I'll do the walk. But anyway, so he's talking a lot about the AI revolution, and we know NVIDIA now is a household name. Actually, when I joined SQream about 3.5 years ago, and I said GPU, people looked at me and said, what is a GPU? And when I said, well, we run on NVIDIA, and they said, who is NVIDIA? Right, I think the days have changed, and NVIDIA became a household name, and we all hear about GPUs. So when you kind of look a little bit at the history, and I kind of love this slide because you're kind of seeing how the transformation of society. We went through the Industrial Revolution where we're seeing the assembly lines and the manufacturing, and we have the end product. And now we're into this AI revolution, which goes into the factories as well, actually, right? So we're seeing more AI in the factory with predictive maintenance and with managing supply chain, and we're also seeing the robots. We're seeing how AI is impacting our lives. So AI is both a product and also facilitates our lives as well. And of course, we're seeing that in the factories. So when we look at, what are the challenges of enterprises? We hear a lot about LLMs, we hear a lot about chatbots, but when we look at the enterprises, really AI is no longer just a research project, right? AI is really a product, and intelligence that's generated by AI is a new product that we're all somehow leveraging in our day-to-day life and in the enterprises. And enterprises really need to manufacture that intelligence to remain competitive and remain relevant. And in order to do that, we're seeing that the hardware, especially GPUs, are consumed differently than they would in a static data center. And I think also here in the Vultr booth, it's a great example, right? So the ability to leverage the GPUs in the cloud is a new thing that works together really, really well. So we're seeing that evolution of GPUs and leveraging the GPUs beyond just a static data center. And it needs to be continuously dynamic because AI introduces a lot of dynamics into the processes, and we'll see that in a minute as well. So the AI factory is something that, granted, NVIDIA is talking about, but we're really seeing it out there in the press. I was visiting with Singapore, for example, and over there's a countrywide initiative around AI, right? We're seeing more and more AI initiatives at a global basis, and we're seeing more and more companies launching their AI factories in order to manufacture and produce that intelligence. So it's not just a fad anymore. This is really happening. But as we look at the AI factories and working with AI in the enterprise space, the first thing we're seeing is the data volumes are exploding. Right? In the past, 3, 5, 10 years ago, companies deleted data. Today, no one deletes data anymore. And we look at historical data, over a span of months and years, it's much better and much easier to predict. For example, when you look at IoT devices in a manufacturing floor, or when you look at fraud detection, in the financial industries, the more data you have, the better your prediction model, the more accurate it's going to be. So you need to handle very large data sets. And one of the challenges today is that a CPU cannot really manage those huge data sets. The second thing is that traditional pipelines are slow and manual, and we need to continuously accelerate those. And we look at model training. Many companies train on subsets of models, right? Why? Because it's an issue of time and it's an issue of cost. So instead of looking at training a model on the entire production data set, let's train it on a limited data set, then let's take it to production. And many times what happens when it goes into production, then the model is not accurate anymore and it doesn't perform the same. So there are a lot of bottlenecks within the data modeling and the training. And at the end, once we train the model, we got it into production, then we really want to make sure the inferencing works and the scale is significant. So we need to make sure that the architecture is designed accordingly. In order to get all of that together and pull it together, then we really have the brain of the AI factory. There's the entire transformation. We take the data, first of all, we need to ingest the data, bring it together and cleanse it and prepare it for the training. So the first thing is acceleration of the data pipeline. We need to bring more and more data, source more and more data, kind of like in the traditional factory when you source raw materials. Here we're sourcing data from different sources, and then we need to make sure that it's modeled accurately. Then we create the models themselves, right? We want to train the models, we want to develop the models, train and test. There's a lot of iteration that goes into this process, and we want to train them, and we prefer to do it right there on the GPU, right? So historically, new models are trained on GPUs, but the entire data processing happens on a CPU. That means it's a slow process, and in addition, it's costly, and you then need to move the data from the CPU to the GPU. Right, so if you can actually get all of this on a GPU, it will give an advantage to the user. After we model and train it, then we of course do the inferencing, and there is a self-optimization loop. So the beauty of the data, it kind of never ends, right? So you start with raw data, and then you cleanse it, and you run your models, and then those would become raw data again, and this is kind of an endless loop, not to mention the fact that you continuously add more and more data as you go. So this is kind of, I kind of set the stage up a little bit to the notion of an AI factory, what goes into it, what are the challenges, and now let's talk a little bit about SQream and Vultr and how together we fuel the AI factory, and what are the components that make that happen. So, the first thing is we want to run on GPUs. Why? Because it's faster, it's more scalable, and it's actually cheaper. So granted, maybe a cost of a single GPU is higher than a single CPU, but the processing and the compute power is significant, right? So we're seeing here, the serial CPU processing versus a parallel GPU processing. One of the challenges is that the GPU machine is built as a number crunching machine, right? Not as a data processing machine, and this is where we'll talk a little bit about the technology that enables us to leverage the GPU for the entire data process. So what does the reference look like? Reference architecture look like in a nutshell? So we have the raw data from multiple sources. So think use cases. If it's in financial services, it could be point of sale data, transactional data, ledger data. So all of that data can come in as a raw data, and it will come in from different sources. If we're looking at telco, maybe it's around customer experience, so it's dropped calls, and number of calls, and dialed numbers, right? Duration of calls, location. So there will be, again, different types of data. Or if we look at manufacturing, it could be on the manufacturing floor, IoT devices, the different drills and bits, and all of the other IoT devices that will send information to aggregate in order to generate that intelligence. So that would be the raw data. And the output would be the intelligence, right? So the output is the intelligence, would be the product. What is it? It could be basically AI decision making, it could be dashboarding, analytics, right? So different outputs for the intelligence, or it could be a bot or an agent as well. In order to be able to transform the raw data to intelligence, we need to run it through this AI factory, and really the layers typically would be infrastructure, the software-driven solutions, and the services. So infrastructure, we at SQream would run on GPUs, so NVIDIA GPUs, and we partner with Vultr, so you can leverage the Vultr infrastructure and the GPU side. The AI software, we run SQream software, our own software, and we integrate very tightly with NVIDIA AI enterprise software as well. So we can do everything on the GPU. And of course, there's some services around, and we partner with different partners that provide services to help strategy design and also implement the specific use cases, right? If we dive a little bit deeper into the middle layer, then what we're seeing again in the transformation of raw data to intelligence, then typically it's three phases. The first phase is is gather the data, so ingest and collect the data, and then transform it, cleanse it, ETL it, right? So all of that happens in the data preparation. The notion here, ingest, cleanse, integrate, transform at scale. Right, so we're looking at hundreds, or could be hundreds of terabytes of data, petabytes of data, and being able to very quickly prepare that data in order to be able to then model it. Right, so that would be the first stage. The second is the model training. So algorithm development and training, again, you want to train at scale. You want to train as large a data set. The larger the data set you train, the more accurate the model is going to be. Right? So you want to make sure that it's of significant size, and if you can train it as a production level, it's even better. And the last bit would be the inferencing. So high throughput inferencing, where you can deploy, predict, generate, and then of course the product, the output product would be it could be an agent, it could be a dashboard, it could be analytics, it could be reports, whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish when you're implementing the AI factory. So to kind of summarize, we're SQream. Our mission is really to help accelerate the world's data analytics and AI with scale innovation. And really, the word scale is a big word for us, because the notion here is about scale, about speed, and about efficiency. So can we do things, faster, better, but also cheaper? Now, efficiency is not just the cost. If we can have a smaller footprint on the hardware side, the solution is going to be more sustainable. So if you can have an AI factory that's more sustainable, meaning requires less cooling, requires less electricity, then it's very powerful. And this is part of the efficiency that SQream introduces with our partnership with Vultr. So we fuel these AI factories, and then we help generate the intelligence and manufacture that intelligence faster, better, and more accurately. Here's an example of a bank. This is NCBA Bank in Africa. You see there's they made a lot of progress and really allowed us to use their name and logo, over 60 million customers. And what they're really trying to do is analyze their customer base to upsell, to predict churn, right, and make sure that they're more profitable with those customers. So they wanted high quality analytics, and they were looking to do it at a fraction of the cost. So here are the results that were published. So in the system they had before, the data loading would take 37 hours, right? So they would need to put a lot of power, because they wanted to run that overnight. So to run it overnight, they needed to actually deploy many CPUs to be able to do that. Where once they deployed SQream, it only took 7.5 hours as they run it on GPU. So they're leveraging, you can see here on the bottom right, they used to have 22 CPU servers, they reduced to 2 GPU servers. Right? So at a tenth of the footprint, they're able to do things much faster. On the right-hand side and on top, we see the Power BI analysis. So again, almost an hour and 40 minutes to process reports. Now it takes only 11 minutes. So the agents are much more productive, and they can get more things done and faster. And on the bottom here, we see the customer scoring. They would run that typically overnight in order to score the customers. So meaning churn reduction, like churn prediction. So they give each customer a score. What can they do? Maybe upselling and so forth. They want to have those reports handy. So the ability to run those in 4 hours improves their productivity and their human productivity significantly. So this is just one example how with a 91% reduction in footprint, they can get 80, 90% improvement in their business. So to summarize, and this is what we're seeing for SQream as a typical implementation. You cut back on the CPUs, so you're cutting back on the emissions. So the footprint, is about 1 to 10 versus a CPU. The resources and of course the emissions are reduced significantly with that as well. The ingestion time is shortened significantly. You can ingest much more faster, so you can work with larger data sets, train larger models, and analyze faster and larger as well. Thank you. Any questions before we do the raffle? Yes.
Is that software as a service, cloud-based, or on-prem deployment?
Great thing. So the question is that a software as a service, cloud or on-prem? So the answer is all the above. So we partner with Vultr on the cloud, but you can also deploy the software on-prem as well.
Data privacy, is there any for data privacy?
Yes.
The on-prem solutions, do you support any orchestration?
For data privacy, do we support any orchestration? So typically, yeah. So we're the query software, the software query engine behind it. So if you already have other solutions for observability or others, then we can integrate with them.
So my question was about the LLM that you're training. What are those? Are they contained within your environment? Or are they something that on the end customer side, the LLMs, or are you bringing your own LLM like embedded?
Okay, so the question is, are the LLMs on, are we bringing those? So actually this is not LLM, so it's not Gen AI. Okay, this
No,
is
but you're training models.
structured data, yeah. So the models will be structured data models. So we provide the software and hardware, we provide the software, Vultr will provide the hardware infrastructure to train it, but you need to create your own models. Now if you already have models in Python, so we allow you to bring your own models into the training. Okay? Or you can engage a third party that helps you with that. But we're just the software vendor for the factory.
You do have the services part.
So we have minimal services. Usually we partner with partners to do the services. Right? So we are a software vendor that will run in that center. Any other questions? Thank you.